4.
Thank you very much. Okay, welcome to the program. Charles Moscowitz, Monday through Friday, 12 noon, live stream and archive. Hal Shurtleff's here. Hal is the director of Camp Constitution. It is a summer retreat that includes lessons in the Constitution and American history and economy and culture from a conservative perspective. It's also a traditional summer camp. Hal, thanks for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me on, Chuck.
All right, Hal. Listen, talk a little bit about Camp Constitution, what you have coming up this summer, who's coming on, who's speaking.
Sure. Well, first off, Camp Constitution is a charitable trust. We were founded back in 2008, and we've been running week-long family camps. We have year-round activities, but our family camp is sort of our biggest program. And this year's camp runs from July 28th to August 3rd. I got a little promotional flyer here. Hope you all can see it. You can visit our website, campconstitution.net, to get more details. And it's open for whole entire families, unaccompanied minors and unaccompanied adults. And we do have cabins for families, so mom and dad can bring the little babies, the toddlers, underage, from 11 and under, as well as teenagers and adults. And even we've had multi-generational families. We have grandmother and grandchildren and mom and dad. Right. And it's an incredible program. We like to say we can make it a potential life-changing and definitely life-affirming experience. What we do is we have a number of classes throughout the days, as well as field trips, activity, hiking. We're taking a trip to this year's camp is in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, at the Lakeside Christian Camp and Retreat Center. This is our second year there, and hopefully we found a new home. It's just a short distance from Albany, New York. It's about maybe a 45-minute drive to Albany. Exit 1 off the Massachusetts Turnpike. It'll get you to our camp probably within about 10 to 15 minutes. And even though it's in a city, we are on a beautiful lake. We're on the outskirts of town. So we have a very rural setting, a beautiful hill view. And the lake is really gorgeous.
I've been there, and it's a great lake.
We have dormitory-style rooms, as well as cabins, rustic cabins. But nice accommodations. The food is good. The people who own that camp do an incredible job of providing, services. But our camp, well, let's say a typical day, we start the day off with an optional run or swim at 6:30 in the morning, and then wake up is at 7, and we have flag raising ceremony where campers will do a morning devotion. And by the way, we're sort of a non-denominational camp. People from various backgrounds are more than welcome to attend. Then we have breakfast. We have 3 classes in the morning. Each class is 50 minutes long. We're pretty strict about no longer than 50 minutes. And then just plenty of time for breaks in between. And the camp has basketball. It has all kinds of recreational activities. So plenty of things to keep you busy. And then we have afternoon activities, organized activities. We're doing an optional hike out Mount Greylock, I think on Tuesday at camp, and then a trip to the Springfield Army Museum, where the M1 Garand was born, and it's actually was the place where the rebellion took place, the Shades Rebellion.
Yep.
We're going to have a historian right there on the spot, one of our friends, Richard Howell, and he's going to do a little historical narrative of that event and what led to it and what happened in the aftermath. That's one great thing about New England, Charles. We're right here in there's so much history. You don't have to travel too far to find a field trip. And over the years, we've taken field trips to Bunker Hill, Old Ironsides, state houses in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Concord Bridge, Lexington Battle Green, and so forth and so on. So lots of history right here. We definitely, and sometimes some of the young people and adults, this is the first time they've seen this. And our staff and campers come as far as California, Florida, the Midwest. We even have a few campers from Massachusetts, believe it or not. Then we have, in the evening, after dinner, we have a couple of classes, and the last full day of camp, we take out some of the camp, not the whole camp, and we'll distribute things of interest, copies of the U.S. Constitution. We'll go to the businesses and some of the neighborhoods, and whatever, let's say there's an issue of Common Core or maybe exposing Agenda 21, we may have something germane to that. But we want the young people to know that they have a lot of influence, if they just used it. And I say, when was the last time that young people came to a door or came to a business giving people things to promote liberty and freedom? Usually they're carrying clipboards for Greenpeace or vote for Bernie Sanders, but they're not really promoting liberty. But our campers will do that, and the goal is that they'll go home and they'll be a force in their neighborhoods, in their schools. Of course, a lot of our campus are homeschools too, and there's homeschool groups that we look to influence as well. Well, by the way, we always have great instructors, and folks, for the most part, volunteer their time. The staff, the council's actually paid to come. We don't have, we're not for profit, but we have coming this year, returning this year, is Lord Christopher Monckton, who's actually a true British lord. He's a great lover of liberty. He loves our Constitution. He was instrumental in the Brexit movement, getting out of the European Union. And he was a former advisor to Margaret Thatcher. He's an expert on the Agenda 21 issue and the climate change issue and many other things. Professor Willie Soon, who's one of the top atmospheric scientists in the world. I call him a climate realist. And we have, we're going to have Richard Howell, I mentioned him earlier. Reverend Stevie Kraft will be there. He is a pastor from New Jersey who's been one of our mainstays. We do have a couple of people that are sort of have not committed yet. We're looking to get the Vice President of the National Association of Gun Rights to give a couple of classes, and he said he's going to try to make it. We invited his whole family. Then we have a program for the young people. It's called Patriot Camp, and Mrs. Kraft, Reverend Kraft's wife, who's a retired school teacher, and Bonnie Wilder, who's a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, put that on, and it's a great program. History should be a fun thing to learn, and we make it fun for these young people.
Excellent. And so hopefully these are the future leaders of American politics and culture.
Well, our motto was honoring the past, teaching the present, preparing the future. And when I give a presentation, what is Camp Constitution, I point out that I think it was in the last presidential election, something like 80% of people 30 and under went for Hillary or Bernie. Now, we're not a political organization. We don't promote candidates and things of that nature, but we do promote principles of the Constitution. And that's pretty tragic when that many young people vote for socialism when they should be promoting freedom and liberty. So our goal is to help turn that stat around a little bit in a small way. We also have a YouTube channel, and all of our classes, practically all of our classes, are videotaped and put on. And if you go to our Camp Constitution YouTube channel, you'll find the great classes from last year. One of our instructors who's returning is Debbie Bacigalupi out of California, and she did a great presentation on Agenda 21 talking about the California wildfires. She's from Northern California. She's actually a rancher, and she knows firsthand. And that particular video of her class, we got over like 45,000 views, so we're very pleased about that. And then we have New Hampshire's former New Hampshire State Rep Norman Tregenza. He's one of our mainstays. And we have another former New Hampshire State Rep, Josh Moore, who's a very young man. He's in his early 20s, and he does plan to stay active in politics, but he's involved with a leadership organization, and so he's going to be teaching some of those principles to our youngsters as well.
Excellent. Sounds like a good lineup. And how do people get in touch with you, Hal, and find out more information? Is there a website?
Well, the best thing is just to go right to our website, campconstitution.net, and there's a place there for contact. You can also go to our Facebook page, Camp Constitution, and inquire there. You can call me direct. I have a Facebook page, Hal Shurtleff. I'm in Boston, Massachusetts. There's three other Hal Shurtleffs who are distant cousins, but I'm the one that lives in Boston, and you'll see my Facebook page, and you know that you got me because the Camp Constitution Director will be on there.
Excellent. You mentioned how young people have been voting for politicians who at this point are open and outright socialists. Back in the day, they used to hide their socialist affiliation. I think it was in 2000 and I believe, actually 1999, that I did a column that was widely disseminated called 54 Socialists in Congress. And that these guys were affiliated, and women were affiliated with the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and I showed how their website actually had images from the Democratic Socialists of America on it, and that they were intertwined and interconnected, and that the Democratic Socialists of America is, of course, a wing of Socialist International, which is the world's oldest socialist organization. It precedes Marx's Second Workmen's Convention. So
that's right.
That article went viral. This is before the days of the computer, and it was republished by a lot of people without giving me any attribution, which is the way it goes, because I wasn't really well known. But the point is that that article and that exposure not only caused them to remove those images from their website and go underground, but I think it actually contributed to the election of George W. Bush and the defeat of Gore. But yet, back then, there was efforts taken to obscure this fact. Nobody wanted to be associated with socialism because obviously it had a stench. You know, people remembered Hitler and Stalin and big authoritarian nanny state socialist agendas and how destructive they were. But now we're at a point in this year, 2018, 2019, that you have open socialists winning elections to Congress. You've got this new young clique of people, including our very own Ayanna Pressley, my congresswoman here in Boston, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, who has connections to the Muslim Brotherhood, and a crop of others, and some of the old guard, people like Bernie Sanders, of course, and Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey.
Ed Markey.
Oh yeah, one of the biggest.
Ed Markey. There was a book. He probably still is affiliated with this far left group. What's the name of it? I read this book many years ago, and there was a picture of Markey at this organization's meeting. Next to him would be a KGB agent. I mean, literally a KGB agent. A covert cadre was the name of the book. The IPS, Institute of Political something or other. The IPS is the name of it. I can't remember what the IPS stands for. So Markey's been a socialist for all his political career. I mean, you look at a voting record. That's the key thing too. There are a lot of people that even come across as moderate or conservative, and then you see how they vote. And there's a number of organizations that have voting guides, constitutional voting guides. One of them is the New American Magazine. And, 100 would be someone like Ron Paul.
Sure.
And 0 would be someone like Lenin. And you fall in between there. It was interesting for years. When Bernie Sanders was a member of the House of Representatives, we have what we call the Sandernista Index. And Bernie was about a 25 or a 30, meaning that he voted for socialism 70% of the time or 75% of the time. And you would see some of the people in the Democrat and Republican Party voting to the left of Bernie. Now, it's true, sometimes when you take a vote, Bernie would say, this doesn't go far enough, that's why I'm voting against it. It wasn't like he was voting for some pro-liberty. He used to be very much against gun control, living in Vermont.
Yeah.
But that started to change now. Vermont is more socialist than ever before. They just passed this horrible abortion bill. Hasn't been signed yet, but the governor's going to sign it. It passed by such a wide margin.
Is that the one which allows for abortion on demand right up to the day of birth?
Oh, Kermit Gosnell would blush at this law.
Yeah, I mean, this has already happened in New York State, and we recently had the governor of Virginia make a comment, he being a gynecologist, that you have to leave the baby comfortable if it's born until it dies. I mean, my question for that is, how long do you wait before the baby dies where you don't have any intervention? This is like a reversion to the ancient Greek barbaric practice of a judge taking a look at a newborn baby and deciding whether or not that baby is going to be able to serve the state, and if not, then they'd leave it on a hillside to die. And it was even too much for the Romans, who abolished that. So, I mean, we're going back to a very, very dark time in not in American history, in world history, where you're allowing someone, whether it be a mother or a doctor or whoever, to literally decide whether a baby is going to get to live or not. And it's something that's, it's not even an issue of abortion. This is infanticide. This is, outright murder of a born baby. And it's being legalized. I mean, this is like, it's kind of getting back to the eugenics model of the 1920s and 1930s that kind of went out of style with World War II. Anyway, but Hal, I want to bring the conversation over to the fact that we have all these left-wing socialists now in Congress openly calling themselves socialists. The leader seems to be Alexandria Cortez, and they're being hailed as great leaders of the Democratic Party. And I mean, I think that the Democratic Party, or the left side of the party, which has been in control probably since, I don't know, the 1980s, that they've always been socialist. But now it's an open thing. It's not a secret. They're out there. This is a very troubling development for me. What say you?
Well, I agree. It's a very troubling development because, again, they're unbridled socialists, and what's interesting too is they're in the primaries. They're beating the incumbents who have been longtime leftists and vote. Who was the one that Presley beat? Was the former mayor of
Capuano. Yeah.
What is it?
Capuano.
Yeah, and he was about a 20% on most indexes.
Sure.
So I mean, from 20 to 0, I don't know how big a deal that is. But the troubling thing is that they're openly socialist, and they're getting elected. And Presley comes out, and she sounds like she's a Christian. She says, "I'm going to church and I listen to the choir," and then she's a big supporter of Planned Parenthood. And interesting, I met her when she was running for office. Very attractive lady. She's trying to get petition, get signatures on her, to get on the ballot. She used to work for Joe Kennedy, which tells you, her pedigree.
Mm-hmm.
But the second time I ran into her was I was leaving the Suffolk Superior Courthouse. It was called jury duty, and I'm crossing the street on City Hall Plaza in Boston, and they're raising the communist flag of China, and she's one of the speakers. And she's praising the Chinese Communist Revolution. This is 2008, 2009. And I said, wait a minute, a city official is praising a revolution that is ongoing, and it's taken millions of lives, it's repressed people, you've got an all-powerful state. Why in the world would any elected official who takes an oath to defend the Constitution, and in her case, you have to take an oath to defend the state constitution as well as the U.S. Constitution, why would they openly embrace communist thugs, communist China? And they do. And that's the problem. Some people can't believe that. And it's just like this Planned Parenthood. Most people do not know that the roots of Planned Parenthood are very racist and actually Nazi roots. The founder, Margaret Sanger, she had a German Nazi doctor, Ernest Rudin, write for her birth control review. There's a infamous letter, by the way, that she sent to a Dr. Gamble who lived in Milton, Massachusetts, not too far from where I am, on Adams Street. And at that time, he's the president of the Eugenics Society, and she's talking about using black doctors, he used the term Negro Project is what she advocated, using black doctors and black clergy members to promote birth control. And in the letter, she said that we don't want the word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. Right. And this Dr. Gamble, who was the grandson of one of the founders of Procter & Gamble, did not want to have black doctors. He just had no use for blacks at all. And it was interesting, 5 doors down lived Prescott Bush. And because Republicans are involved in this too. I'm not saying the Liberty Republicans, but the establishment Republicans. And I did a little research, and I discovered that Prescott Bush was Planned Parenthood's first treasurer. So.
Wow, Hal, I just it's an issue that people need to understand that the marketing of abortion as a woman's right to choose, originally it really was a population control agenda. It had nothing to do with a woman. And you're right to point out that liberal Republicans have their hands all over it. It was an attempt to control the race, very derived from the eugenic idea, which was a term established by Francis Galton. He was Charles Darwin's cousin and close collaborator. That's right. This idea that we have to evolve the superior races and remove and eventually annihilate or isolate inferior races because they're taking up too much space. When I was running for Congress in 2004, I was approached by a major Republican figure in Massachusetts, and I still can't reveal who it is because they swore me to secrecy. Mm-hmm. And they were like, you have to get behind abortion because abortion is needed for the very reasons you're talking about. You know, it's a population control. We have to control all these blacks. And I was like, forget it. I'm not interested. But the point is that I was like, wow. I mean, it kind of was a revelation to me that, you know, this was not a left-winger. You know, this wasn't, you know, socialist. And that the agenda really transcends that. I mean, but ultimately, it appeals to the real socialist ideal, which is the right to control who lives and who dies. The right to control, you know, socialism is public ownership of the mode of production. In other words, the government controls, the government acts as a messianic agent to control what people do in all aspects of their lives so that we can move to this utopia, this one world ant colony, and that the ultimate expression of that control is deciding who lives and who dies. And what is the most basic fundamental aspect of that but to kill the unborn baby?
That's right. Are you familiar with the book written by George Bernard Shaw? It's called The Intelligent Woman's Guide to Socialism. It was published in the early part of the last century, 2005 or so. I have a copy of the book, and towards the end of the book, he says to these intelligent socialist women, basically that under socialism you'll be forced to live well, but if it's, and I'm paraphrasing, if the state deems that you're not worthy of it, you will be executed in a kindly manner. Although thinking about abortion, that's not so kind when they have to stick a needle into the baby's heart and then suck out the brains, crush the skull, and rip out the body parts, and that baby feels everything. And if the baby happens to be born, then they either cut the back of the neck. That's what Dr. Kermit Gosnell did. And he did that to hundreds, perhaps thousands of babies, mainly minorities, Hispanic and blacks. In fact, the black population in the United States is about 13%, but the black abortion rate is, they do about 39 to 40% of abortions are on black women.
Oh yeah, and it's very much a population control. It's a decision about whether or not someone's life is worth living, as the Nazis used to say. And and this is and this is something that the left now. I remember Ray Flynn used to come on after, just, you know, before me when I was at the Christian station in Quincy, and he told me that he was drummed out of the Democratic Party because he was pro-life. Right. And that any pro-life Democrats, probably starting in the early to mid-1990s, was basically purged from the party. And now it's so radical that now Senator Susan Collins of Maine is being targeted with really vicious attacks by the left because she decided to vote to confirm Justice Kavanaugh. Well, and he just recently decided on a decision that didn't favor abortion.
Yeah, she's always been a woman of the left, but she voted to confirm Kavanaugh, and this leftist group created a fund. They said that if she votes to confirm Kavanaugh, the money will be used for her opponent.
Right.
Which is pretty remarkable. I don't know if that's legal. It's almost as if they're saying, look, we're gonna scare you into voting the right, our way. And I don't think Kavanaugh is that hardcore a pro-lifer. I think he's a moderate. So I don't. But it's interesting how I think this is what's justifying all of these horrible bills that are passing New York and will be passing Vermont and probably some other states the next few weeks, is that the left really fears that Roe versus Wade will be repealed.
Well, look, I mean, if they are concerned about Roe versus Wade being repealed, they can, under the Constitution, if the people of a given state wants to have legal abortion. I mean, I think that's probably constitutional. That's, I think, what was the situation before Roe versus Wade. But they don't have to have this radical agenda. I mean, if you look at the language of Roe versus Wade, it's not that radical. I mean, it basically bans abortion after, I think, 4 months.
44 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and that the state has a right to regulate that. So Why is it now, all of a sudden in 2019, that states which have legal abortion, they're suddenly passing these really radical laws that are above and beyond what Roe versus Wade talks about? I mean, the partial birth abortion was struck down, I think, by the Supreme Court 10 years ago also, but they're re-implementing this. I mean, what kind of insanity is there? Suddenly this great need for people to abort their babies at the point of birth? I mean, what's going on with that?
Well, I know the percentages are relatively low. That doesn't make it any more wicked and evil. It's not like all the abortions. It might be, I don't know what exactly that is. It could be 5. And sometimes we know the statistics are, I don't expect a lot of abortion mills to actually give the right figure. But we have to look at a spiritual issue here. I don't care who you are. If you look at an ultrasound, and I mean, I'm a father of 5 children, and my youngest is 14. I looked at the ultrasounds of my children. What I saw, it was a beautiful thing to see this little developing baby, this human being. It wasn't a tadpole. It was a human being. And I think just within the first 14 days of 21 days, you see a heartbeat. You see a heart there. That's a little human being that should be protected. And one of the essential roles of government is to protect life. It's to be a negative force, and that's life right there. They talk about a woman's right to choose. Well, you can always, the baby, once that baby's born, though, once that baby's conceived, that's where your choice. Now you have to protect that child. And there's adoption agencies. They're going out of business as they can't find babies, so they have to go overseas. So there's all kinds of options, and this notion of a woman's life in danger, that is almost that's so rare today.
Oh, I know. Well, it's been redefined to mean inconvenience is life in danger. And I would suggest to people who do think that abortion should be legal, at least in its early stages, and I tend to be in that camp, even though I think it's barbaric and despicable. Shouldn't we be doing everything possible to reduce the number of abortions and make it so rare that it would be something that's not acceptable? And shouldn't we be condemning it morally? I mean, you mentioned the idea of the ultrasound, which is very powerful. I have the same experience. I mean, do people realize that Planned Parenthood actually does not let women see the ultrasound? They just do it because they want to position the right abortion so they can harvest the body parts and sell them to... Right. And when they do it, they actually screen. They make sure that the woman doesn't see it because they're afraid that maybe she may bond with the baby. I mean, it's this is to me the main issue. If we expose abortion to everything it is, if it becomes an informed decision, like any other medical decision, when you have a surgery and you have to go to the doctor, you have informed consent. You're fully briefed on all the elements of what's going to happen and the consequences and everything, emotionally and physically, and the risks and everything. But with abortion, there's like a shroud of secrecy around it. I want to know exactly why that is. I mean, it really does get to this as some kind of an agenda. I mean, if they want to be legal abortion, fine. Let's take steps to make sure that a citizen is informed fully and that the moral aspects and the psychological aspects are well known to a young woman. What not to mention the physical manifestations that could be quite negative for abortion. All of it should be well known and should be well posted. And there's a major effort to suppress it. And if you bring it up, you're attacked.
Let me recommend to your viewers, listeners, Charles, this movie, Gosnell, The Trial of America's Biggest Serial Killer. I watched this when it first came out. It only played in, I live right in the city of Boston. I had to go to Bellingham, about 25 miles to the west of here, to watch it in a theater. It only showed in a handful of theaters I think in the state. It was in, I don't know, a number of, some theaters pulled it. They advertised it, and then they got complaints, and they pulled it. But it's available now on DVD, and you can also have it on demand, I think. And we're actually going to be doing some show. I showed it at my home. I showed it at a luncheon, a private meeting. And it's very powerful because it shows you what happens at one of these abortion mills. And there was it wasn't that graphic. It didn't show a lot of, it didn't show the dead babies. In fact, Baby Boy A, which was one of the things that made such a big difference. They showed, they wouldn't even show it in the movie, but if you go to their website, Gosnell the movie, you'll see a picture of it. So they didn't want to go out of the way to horrify people.
Right.
But it's a very powerful, the nail salons in Pennsylvania, of course, Gosnell's abortion mill was in Philadelphia, and they are inspected at least once a year. His place was never inspected, and it's almost as if these abortion clinics, I hate to use the word clinic, it's really an abortion mill, I could say that they're government population control centers, and that's why they're treated the way they are, hands off. We like what they're doing. The secular humanist government, who has the power over life and death, likes these things. And that's why...
And that's exactly right, and that the left is all about preventing inspection of these abortion mills in, in Texas, and they've been very much involved in that issue.
Restaurants are inspected, drinking in bar rooms are inspected, grocery stores, they come in there gangbusters, they find a few fruit flies, they shut you down, right? But abortion places, forget it.
Abortion and voting booths, they don't get inspected, right? Anyway, Hal, but I want to bring back the topic to the issue of these elected left-wingers who are coming up with these really outlandish ideas. You've got Cortez with her Green New Deal, to try to ban cow farts and airplanes, and to build only rail. And, a lot of this are the real quack stuff. It sounds horrendous on paper, this idea of, refitting every single building in the United States so that it's protecting against global warming or some other crackpot scientific, pseudoscientific idea. And it's going to cost, like trillions of dollars. Brilliant. And, on the other hand, we may snicker and laugh and say, oh, that's just a bunch of pie in the sky. But I'm actually fearful that they are going to try to implement it. And the reason they'll get away with it is not because of the socialists, but it's because of the conservatives, who are going to, first of all, they're going to get all this government money from it. There's going to be, there's a huge transfer of monies to pay for this whole thing. You're going to have people lining up to get involved with that.
Contractors.
Contracting, all of this to do nothing. It's sort of like in the 1980s, there was like a big thing to change the gasoline engine that turned out to be a complete hoax. I forget what it was called, but the stuff that they were replacing gas with turned out to be environmentally worse.
Oh, you mean the ethanol?
Ethanol, yeah, exactly. It's like that, except 10 times bigger. And it's a disaster waiting to happen, but yet I am concerned that they are going to be able to pull off at least part of this. And it's kind of like Agenda 21. If they don't do it up front, then they're going to do it, behind the scenes. They're going to do it using subterfuge and subversion. They'll get the people, appointed strategically, and they'll gradually implement the thing.
Well, that's right. It looks ridiculous when you see this Green New Deal, but even if they get a small percentage of it passed the next couple of years, and then a few more years, a little bit more. And it's interesting that people, it's being implemented all over the country, Agenda 21, and you could see this, if you could see the influences that they've changed the street patterns, they've got these crazy bike paths, you've got a 2-lane road, now it's a 1-lane road. Or you've got a bike path, and
especially in Cambridge.
Sometimes they're in the center of the street.
Yeah, especially in Harvard Square. But anyways,
at Harvard Square, you see solar panels popping up. They're actually cutting down trees to put solar panels in. You'll see in more rural areas, or you got mountaintops. These beautiful mountaintops now covered with these wind turbines where they have to clear cut. And none of this stuff actually is making, it's good. First off, there is no man-made global warming, climate change, what have you. There's been natural fluctulations that are happening since the recording of time. In fact, I just interviewed a gentleman, Tony Heller, and he did a great article. I think it was in CFACT, C-F-A-C-T, where he shows newspaper clippings from the 1890s to the 1920s, the 30s, the 40s, where the scientists say the ice caps are melting, scientists talk about climate, we're having a new ice age, oh, we're going to burn up in a few years. It's all the scary.
Yeah, it's the Chicken Little, the sky is falling. I mean, look, I don't know if there's man-made global warming or not, but what I do think is that if there is, it's not this huge emergency. We're talking hundreds of years of tiny,
Let me show
tiny...
you something. We have a publishing arm called Camp Constitution Press. And we put back in print something that was published in 1810. I can see it here, right?
Move it up, move it over.
But written by Noah Webster of the Noah Webster's dictionary fame on the supposed change of temperature in winter. Now, back then there were people thinking that because certain species of animals were found further north, and they thought it was a good thing. They didn't think it was bad at all. In fact, Thomas Jefferson was one of the biggest advocates, but he wasn't an Al Gore vice president at the time. And Noah Webster just looked at diaries and trends, and the thermometer was invented, I think, in the 1770s, but I don't know how well used it was. But you had records of when crops were harvested, when lakes froze, when the harbor froze, and he actually looked at the first year the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth. It was a very mild winter.
Right.
April 19, 1775, the day of the Battle of Concord-Lexington, it was a very mild. In fact, it got up into the low 70s. I attend these reenactments, Charles, and there are some times when it's cold, it's in the 20s, and you're freezing out there waiting for these guys to get going. And every now and then, the best I think was it may be in the low 50s, mid 50s. That's the warmest it's been in the 15 or so years I've been attending these reenactments. But in April 19, 1775, before you had the Industrial Revolution, it was warmer. Tony Hill also points out that we have fewer and fewer days in the hundreds in the Northeast, in the Midwest. I remember, and he also says anecdotal. A lot of people say, oh, I remember when I was a kid, the snow was 20 feet high. And he said, usually if you do the research, it doesn't hold up. You know, if you're a child and you're 4'2" and you get a foot and a half of snow, yeah, it's up to your waist because you're only 4'2", right?
Right.
And so forth. And by the way, for those listeners and viewers who live in the greater Boston area, we are having a press conference at the Massachusetts State House February 25th at 11 a.m., and at the press conference will be Professor Willie Soon of the Harvard-Smithsonian Institute and the co-founder of the Weather Channel, Joseph D'Aleo, and they're going to be refuting some of this climate change narrative.
Good, and it just, again, whether or not it's man-made, the point is, whatever, it's not this urgent, it's not this Chicken Little, this henny penny, the sky is falling.
Right.
Every time we have like a hurricane, every time there's the solar vortex, it's like, you see, global warming, climate change. This paranoid, this crazy stuff. And it's like they've got people going crazy. This is like, even if it's true, it constitutes one of the biggest conspiracy theories of our age. And, I do think that there was this concocted theory anyways as a way to get people to surrender their independence and to scare people. It's like similar to the idea that there are aliens that landing on the Earth, which didn't fly too well.
Right?
That's right. That's it. But that didn't. People didn't buy it.
There's a publication called Banker and Tradesman. They have an online presence plus a hard copy. I don't know if it comes out every week or so. And it goes to people, investors, real estate people in greater Boston, New England. I'm not sure if it has a reach outside. And they had this alarming report that property on the beach, on coastal property, is taking a big plunge in Massachusetts. And you look at their research. They're basing it on this entity called First Foundation or One Foundation. It's a left-wing foundation based in New York City for the purpose of promoting this notion of sea level rising. They call it peer review. They review it with people who think the same way. They don't peer review it with people who disagree. And to me, that's pretty evil when an organization relies on this one source, and therefore the price of property is artificially deflated based on something that's not going to happen. But in that same online source, they said that the real estate around the state's gone up 15% or 10%. So what's the problem here? Something's not quite right. Some dishonesty here. But I tell you, if the real estate plunges on coastal property, that's the time to buy, because if they think that the sea level is going to rise in the next couple of years, and you're going to have to, you're going to be swamped by seawater into your basement, it's baloney. The sea levels have gone up a few inches. In some cases, they've gone down. In some cases, the land has changed. Right. But the notion that we're going to be underwater if you live on the coast, and then you got to spend billions and billions of dollars to refit the buildings, and you have to build walls, it's baloney. But hey, if you're a contractor and the city or town is worried about that, you're not going to fight it. Hey, you're going to make payroll.
Well, that's what I mean. It's an unholy alliance between the leftist alarmists and business.
That's right.
So Hal, we reaching toward the ends here, so I want to talk a little bit about the fact that the young people are embracing these socialists in Congress. It is a concern. It's harder to fight them because now they're open about it. It's not like we can write another article, 50 socialists in Congress. I mean, everyone knows. I mean, they'd be, thank you very much. It would be probably run up the flagpole. So, and it is, as we've said, it's based upon really irrational policies like infanticide and alarmist fear-mongering policies like global catastrophe and whatnot. In other words, it's the usual bag of marketing from the left to scare people into surrendering their freedom. How do we combat it?
We combat it by promoting the principles of liberty and freedom and reaching out to as many young people as we can. A lot of folks don't do that. And that's one of the reasons why we created Camp Constitution, was to make a difference. And whether it's at a week-long camp or it's the things we do year-round, people who watch our stuff on YouTube. I spoke to a Republican group a couple of days ago, a nice group of people, and some of them are hearing these things, simple things about the Constitution for the first time. One lady couldn't believe, I mean, you say like 80% of what's done at the federal level is unconstitutional. They're shocked. How did this happen? It happened because most people in this country just don't understand the principles of the Constitution and then make sure that their elected officials are abiding by it.
Well, and in a way, as you say, the answer is to just pull out your pocket Constitution and have young people read it. It's a very simple, easy to understand document. A high school kid could read it and understand it in full. You should look at it, refer to it, think about it, read it again, and realize that this is the governing document of our great republic.
We also have to point out that socialism has been a dismal failure wherever it is enthroned. Venezuela, you look at the old Soviet Union, you look at China, you look at Cuba. Do you really, ask these young people, do you really want to live in a place like that? You want to live where you...
They wouldn't last 5 minutes. They wouldn't last 5 minutes in Venezuela without their bourgeois parents' capitalist-gained monies.
That's right.
And by the way, these Congress people are a little fuzzy and soft on Venezuela, I've noticed, with Maduro. You don't hear too much about that. So, Hal, let my listeners again know where they can reach you and how they can get more information about Camp Constitution coming up this summer.
Right. Well, you can go to our website, campconstitution.net, and you can find out not just about our summer camp. There's a little pamphlet there I'm holding up with the dates on there. But you can learn about our other activities. We do have tuition help available on a case-by-case basis. We've never turned away a worthy camper or family for lack of money, and we hope we never have to. It's a great program, but visit us on our YouTube channel, subscribe to it. We also are on Podomatic, like you are. You can get Camp Constitution Radio and some of the other things we put up there to listen. On our Facebook page, we have our events. So we have things going on all the time. I'll be up in Maine next week showing the Gosnell movie to some groups in northern Maine. I'll be down in Virginia in the end of March. I'm going to be doing a presentation on Agenda 21 in Haverhill, New Hampshire in the middle of March. So then we have monthly meetings and gatherings. So and we always encourage you folks. You want to host one of our speakers, invite me out to your group, wherever it is. So I got someone from Utah that plans to have me out there. So wherever we can make it happen, let's make it happen, because we have everything's at stake. Our nation is pretty important. We're the greatest nation, in my opinion, in the history of mankind, and we're losing it, and we need to reclaim it. And by the way, before we go, today is the birthday of the person I believe was the greatest American ever born, General George Washington.
Yes, indeed. Truly a figure that was almost makes you believe in divine intervention. Hal Shurtleff, again, I want to thank you for joining me this afternoon, and nice talking to you as always, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye now. Bye-bye.